All right, welcome back to the Red and Blue Fight Pick Show. We are here to break down and give our picks for UFC 316, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2, with the co-headliner with the women's bantamweight title on the line, Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. But first, we are going to recap a tough week last week at UFC Vegas 107. And what was supposed to be Blanchfield versus Barber. We will get into that, but we started in the women's strawweight division. I know Red Ray had a quarter unit on Rihanna Dos Santos by submission. Red Ray, what happened there?
Thankfully, I didn't get to see that fight. But I heard it was not pretty. But I also did say Ardeline plus 3.5, which would have cashed. So just picked the wrong bet there.
Yeah, I will say it was a somewhat entertaining fight compared to a lot of the fights on the card. Ardeline looked pretty good. Outstruck her. It was a good scrap. Up the card, we were on Balaji Oki in our 3-unit play alongside Aaron Blanchfield. This fight was a little bit stressful. He dropped the first round, in my opinion, came back strong in the second and third to win a clear decision, but there was a little bit of pit in my stomach during that first round. Moving up the card, I was on Kurt Holobaugh plus 3.5. I know Red Ray didn't give out anything on this fight, but I think we were both kind of leaning Holobaugh. But unfortunately, Holobaugh, he ran right at Jordan Levitt, got within grappling range distance, got grabbed right away, taken down right away, tried to get back up, taken down again, and eventually just got put to sleep. It was his second submission loss. Only other one came by armbar. Jordan Levitt looked good, but I had 0.6 units on Holobaugh plus 3.5, and that did not work out. Moving up the card, neither of us gave up picks for this, but Alan Nascimento beat Philo by a decision. Again, he dropped the first round, came back strong in the next two. This definitely wasn't the most entertaining fight. Very much a grappling fest. I think over 13 minutes of the fight were spent on the ground without a lot of damage being done, but I did think Nascimento edged out the decision pretty clearly. Moving up the card, I was really confident in Zachary Reese by KO, and he looked very slow. The fight started out in a high-paced grappling match. I think they both had a big adrenaline dub after the first 3 minutes of the fight. Reese was getting the better of the striking. I just think that he was so exhausted after the first 3 rounds that those, he's a pretty cut guy, pretty good size on him, not a lot of body fat. And I think that his muscles filled up with blood pretty quickly, and he was breathing heavy the whole fight. He couldn't really get out any big bombs off. I mentioned he was training with Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis and those guys, and all I could think to myself was how Strickland would have destroyed Dusko and definitely gotten a finish, and I think Curtis would have also knocked his head off, but Zachary Reese didn't get it done for me there, unfortunately. Did pick up the decision win in what was a pretty competitive fight. Slop fest. But moving up the card, we were both leaning Macy Chiasson. Didn't give anything out on her, but she got smoked. Came back in the third round a little bit, stole the third round on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. But overall, she got controlled for 10 minutes of the fight. It was boring. I mean, she just got laid on, couldn't do anything. Was getting peppered with little shots, but we didn't give anything out on that fight. Moving up the card, Red Ray was on Dustin Jacoby by KO. This was the highlight of the night for the Red and Blue Fight Pick show. Big Jacoby fans. Um, we also had 2 units on him along with Billy Goff, which unfortunately we're about to get to that. But man, Jacoby looked good. I was so pumped for him. UFC robbed him of which should have been a 50K bonus. He was the only guy to get a knockout on the card. Um, we knew this was a big mismatch here. We were all over this, and Jacoby brought it home for us. So looking forward to watching Jacoby next time out. But moving up the card, we were on Billy Ray Goff. He closed at -400 in this fight against Ramiz Brahima. Short notice opponent change for both guys here. I thought Billy Goff was going to have better striking. He said his grappling is underrated, hasn't really got to show it yet. And I think so far it's pretty properly rated. He got out-grappled pretty bad and put to sleep within 2 minutes of the fight. Red Ray, anything to add here?
I think our one warning was do not grapple in the first round. After that, once Brahima was tires, then he could grapple if he wanted to. And he decided to just shoot a takedown probably about a minute and a half into the fight. So
yeah, it was strange that he was the one that initiated the wrestling. But anyway, we move up the card to the main event of the night. We had Matthias Gamrot against Ludovic Klein, and Blue Bart was on Ludovic Klein +3.5. Did not cash. Kurt Hollabaugh killed that parlay early in the night, but I thought Klein could do more damage. We knew that Gamrot is always going to be looking to wrestle, and sure enough, he landed 6 of 11 takedowns, had almost 9 minutes of control. And even when it was on the feet, it wasn't like Klein was doing too much, significantly more than Gamrot. Yeah, maybe a bad read there, but Gamrot looked good. But let's talk about what was going to be the main event of the night. Blue Bart gave a very passionate breakdown on Erin Blanchfield over Macy Barber. Macy Barber calling for a title shot, felt she deserved one even before this fight, hasn't fought in over a year, has had injuries, illnesses, hasn't beat anyone in the top 15 of the women's bantamweight division, the active division, but still felt she deserved a title shot, said Blanchfield was boring, she was going to knock her out, wasn't going to fight anyone else besides the title after this, missed weight, and got in Blanchfield's face at the stare down, acting all tough. And Ray, what happened?
I think it was a matter of 2 minutes before the fight. Then she had a panic attack and claimed she had a seizure and chose not to fight.
Yes, and this was disappointing because we had a 3-unit parlay alongside Balaji Oki, which did hit. And Red Ray was also on Erin Blanchfield by submission, which I also liked. And this could have really helped get us back some units that were down. Macy Barber did not want the smoke. They were saying she had a seizure, and then it was never heard of again after Saturday. Macy Barber didn't say they went to the hospital and that she definitely had a seizure. All she said was she remembers warming up in the back, and then she blacked out, and then next thing she knew, she was at the hospital. Doesn't remember anything in between. Doctors don't know what happened. There's no explanation for it. No one knows what happened except Red Ray and I. She had a panic attack, didn't want to fight, anxiety, panic attack. And I get it because she knew she was going to get ran through. She knew she was going to get taken down, beat up, and submitted. So whatever. I'm glad Blanchfield got her show money, her win money, and she got 20% of Macy Barber's purse and didn't even have to break a sweat. So anyway, let's jump right into UFC 316. Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2. I will say, just in a recap, we were down 3.73 units. Unacceptable, but we're still up 5.42 units. On the year, I would rather have been down last week than the double title fight pay-per-view this week. That being said, let's jump right into it. Um, I'm not 100% on the order. I believe the first fight is Quillian Salkilld versus Yanel Ashmouz in the lightweight division, minus 650 on the Salkilld side, Ashmouz plus 425 on the comeback. Red Ray, how do you have it?
This should be a pretty good start to the card. Salkilld, we've seen twice now. He was pretty good on Dana White's Contender Series against Gage Young, and then last time we saw him out against the guy from India. I can't think of his name. Jubilee KO'd him in like a minute. I think it was less than that. And he showed two different styles of fighting. And against Gage Young, I think he had 9 takedowns, grappled pretty heavy, and then obviously just KO'd him with one punch. I think his stand-up's okay. He's got good kicks. I don't think his hands are the greatest, but he does push a good pace. He's got good cardio, and he obviously has the grappling advantage, or at grappling that he can fall back on. Ashmouz, last fight he fought, can I think his name?
Trevor Peek.
Trevor Peek, sorry. And then he showed his takedowns there after he had just been basically standing up the first 2 fights he had been in here. I think he also had 9 takedowns. So both these guys in either of their last fights have gotten 9 takedowns. But I think Salkild's the better grappler here. I think Ashmouz should be, if on the feet, it should be competitive. I think Ashmouz has the bigger power in the hands. And I don't think Salkilld has the greatest defense, but I think he will go to the grappling. I think he's going to be able to get Ashmouz down. I don't know if he's going to be able to finish him. Ashmouz says he seems to be solid on the ground, that he's going to stay safe. I just think he's going to be able to tire Ashmouz out, get more takedowns as the fight goes on, and still he pushes forward even if he's losing the stand up. I don't think he was doing amazing with the stand up against Gage Young, but he was still pushing forward, throwing a lot of strikes. So I think he's still going to land a lot late. So I think I got Salkilld here by decision.
Yeah, we're pretty aligned here in similar breakdowns. I think this line is a little wide. I don't think Ashmouz is terrible. The only fight he lost against Chris Duncan, he broke his forearm early in that fight, didn't get finished. Really tough guy. Knocked out Sam Patterson in his first fight, who has a similar frame to Killian. And then, yeah, showed his wrestling ability against Trevor Peek late last summer. On the Killian side, he's a big guy. He's 25. He's 6 foot, 75-inch reach. He's going to have a size and reach advantage against Ashmouz. And I think that is what is going to be the difference. I do think he does have the superior grappling upside. I'll be cheering for Ashmouz. I'll be sprinkling on Ashmouz by KO is a 10-1. I think there's a chance at that. It's worth a sprinkle for me. But my prediction is on Salkilld by decision as well at minus 115. Moving up the card, we go to the men's featherweight division as we have Jekka Sagir against Joe Sung Ho. Sung Ho at minus 600 right now. Jekka at plus 440. So just starting on the Jekka side, he's been pretty unimpressive so far in the UFC. He got finished on the road to the UFC finale fight against Jubilee, who just got knocked out by Quillian Salkilld, although I did think that was a little bit of an early stoppage, if I'm being honest. But he got beat up pretty bad by him, got taken down twice, controlled for 7 minutes, only landed 20 strikes in the fight. That was almost a just over 8-minute fight. Got finished by elbows. Then came back and was losing to Lucas Alexander, who's actually pretty solid. I mean, his record's not great, but I think that his overall game is solid. But anyway, was losing that fight, and then there was kind of a weird stand-up by Alexander. He wasn't defending himself well at all and just got caught and knocked out. I think that was a little bit of a fluke. And then his next time out, he got submitted by Weston Wilson, which is just truly embarrassing. If I'm being quite honest, Weston Wilson is not good. This is a grappling guy. Should be competing in grappling championships, not in MMA fights. And that is a really bad loss to me. And then on the comeback, you've got Ju Sung Yu, who is undefeated. He's 8-0. I don't like that he's 31 years old, just getting into the UFC, but yeah, I mean, you could argue that's his fighting prime. Um, I like an undefeated guy. I haven't seen any tape on him. This isn't a fight I feel super confident either way. I'm going to go with the guy who's undefeated versus the guy I know who's not very good. Um, and I'm going to take him by KO at plus 150. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I watched a couple of his fights against fought Ronaldo Elkson 2 fights ago. It's a pretty competitive fight. He had his back pretty early in the fight. He had showed some good jiu-jitsu.
Red Ray, pause for me for a second. Can you
The fight was pretty tough.
Okay.
And he was able to survive. He was winning the stand-up for the most part. He's got good striking. It's clean. He'll throw kicks. He'll throw anything. Takedowns.
Your audio was behind. I think it's good now. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. So against Alex Exon, he was pretty competitive. There was good strength grappling. Again, and then he pretty much just one punch knocked him out and finished him. So his overall his game's good, but he will just he will get hit on the stand up. And Saragih's only thing he's good at is he's got a lot of power and he just wings overhands and whatnot. So my play here, I got to play out in my bets, but I think Ju Seng should win this pretty handedly. He's a favorite for a reason. I don't think Jack is good anywhere except for possibly landing that power punch. So if Yu's smart, which according to the fights I've seen, his fight IQ looks pretty decent, then he should be able to just take him down and finish him. But there is a chance he was getting hit a lot in the Exon fight. So if he gets hit with a Saragih punch, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets knocked out. So, but the play is Yu by submission here.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out that Sung Yu, although he is making his debut in the UFC, a lot of times when you see guys making their debuts, they have very padded records. He has fought a few guys that are pretty solid, one of which was in the UFC before. So he hasn't been fighting complete cans so far in his career. But moving up the card, we go to the women's flyweight division as we have Ariana De Silva, formerly known as Ariana Lipski, at plus 400, with the comeback on Wong, the Joker Cong, at minus 600. Red Ray, how do you have this?
I think the line's pretty wild here. Lipski really, I mean, she's a good striker. Her big weakness is that she gets taken down by girls and gets kind of dominated on the ground. She's looked a little bit better on her takedown defense recently. But obviously last fight she got pretty much ran over by Jazz Davicius, but I think Jazz Davicius might possibly do the same thing to Wang. So it's not really that big of a loss in my opinion. I mean, in the fight before that, she lost to Katrina Silva, and everybody was really high on Silva before that fight. I thought Lipski was pretty competitive. She wasn't able to really get takedowns there, and she wasn't able to really do anything on the ground. She just kind of cage pushed her for the most part. So I think Lipski's been much improved recently. So her being minus 600 and against a girl that's just a pure striker and Wang seems pretty crazy, especially with Wang's last fight. She fought Bruno Brazil, who I think Lipski would probably run through standing. And the first round was actually pretty competitive. Um, Brazil landed a lot of leg kicks and was actually hurting Wang's leg. And then second round came around and she just stopped throwing pretty much all strikes for the next 2 rounds. She just kind of just circled the cage and didn't throw. So Wang took over and won the fight, but didn't really ever hurt Brazil and didn't look like amazing. I think she was like a minus 700 in that fight. I mean, she won obviously, I think 30-27, but I think that had more to do with Brazil just not throwing strikes. So I think it's going to be competitive, but I think this fight's going to end early. I think one of these girls is going to get knocked out. We've seen Wang get knocked. She lost by submission to Gabrielle Fernandez, but she got knocked down before then got submitted. I think Lipsky hits hard enough to knock out Wang, and I think Wang hits hard enough to knock out Lipsky. So I don't think it's going to be like the Brazil fight because Lipsky doesn't really move backwards; she moves forward. So I'm going to take Wang here by KO, but I could see either girl here knocking out the other.
Yeah, I agree. I think this line is a little wide again. Although I am gonna lean Wang Kong by KO at plus 180. I do think Ariana De Silva is a good fighter. Yeah, I mean she had a tough fight against Jasdavicius and Karini Silva, but both of those women like to wrestle. Um, Obviously, Wang Kong is a kickboxer, famously known for beating Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing in 2015. Um, but De Silva's no slouch on the feet. She is aggressive, likes to come forward. I read in an interview with Sherdog MMA that she went to Arizona to work on her wrestling with Angel Cejudo, who's Henry Cejudo's brother. Recognized that was a bit of a weakness in her game. She's still only 31, which is relatively young for a women's flyweight fighter. And Wong Kong is 33. I think she's no spring chicken. She's getting a lot of hype because of her win over Shevchenko, and her gimmick is that she's the Joker. She paints her face, and she had that incredible knockout in her first fight in the UFC against a girl who's terrible. Um, so again, I am gonna lean Kong by KO at plus 180 because she does have, or De Silva has been TKO'd 4 times in the UFC. Um, Against good competition, but regardless, I think there's an opportunity for a submission win for Arini De Silva. It's 16-1. That's worth a sprinkle for me, because we saw Wong Kong just club and subbed 2 fights ago. But the official pick is going to be Kong by KO at plus 180. Moving up the card, we now get to the men's lightweight division with Markel Mederos versus Mark Choinski. Mederos minus 210, Choinski plus 175. Mederos supposed to fight last week against Balaji Oki. Unfortunately, got sick. I was listening to an interview he had with Petty Corner on Petty Corner's YouTube, and he said Sunday he was hitting pads with his coach and was just feeling exhausted, not even really doing anything too intense. And then he woke up on Monday and was having vomiting and diarrhea, and there was no way he was going to be able to fight on Saturday. Was starting to feel better as the weekend came around. Of course, at this point, it was way too late, and he wasn't going to fight anyways. Asked the UFC to push the fight back 1 week with Balaji Oki, but because of so many fights getting dropped from the card, they couldn't push back Balaji Oki and find 2 new guys. So, anyway, it was a small setback, but I do like this for Mederos. He was supposed to have a different opponent, and I can't remember who it was. Do you remember who it was before Choinski? And then you got Choinski stepping in here.
After Oki, you mean?
Yeah.
No,
I don't. Was it always Choinski? But Choinski 8-0 has been fighting on Anthony Pettis's Milwaukee Fight Nights. He's the champion there. Hasn't fought anyone, in my opinion, that is on Mederos's level. He's also more of a grappler. I watched one of his fights against John Simon, who did beat Luis Pena in his first fight, but then lost, and now he's 1-1 overall. I wasn't impressed with Choinski's stand-up. He's only 5'8", and Mederos, I think, is going to have the size and reach advantage. he overcame some adversity against Hubbard in his last fight, which we were on him against Hubbard there. We had him by decision, and he came through for us. And I think Hubbard is a bigger, stronger guy than Choinski. And while Mederos was getting taken down, he was still able to outstrike and outdamage to grind out a win. And I don't think this fight is going to be as competitive as that one was. I like Mederos by decision at plus 120. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I think Chauncey's better than you think he is. I know he does train up with Pettis up at Rufus's camp up there in Milwaukee. According to the people in his camp, he's one of the best guys out there. He's beaten guys up in the stand up, and he's obviously a 3-time All-American, so wrestler. So his grappling is pretty much dominates everybody up there with that as well. So I don't think Hubbard is better than Chauncey. So, but I think Chauncey fights pretty similar in a way, like he's pretty well rounded, just like Hubbard is. But I think his stand up's a little bit better. If this was a full camp, if Chauncey got a full camp, I don't know what his cardio is going to be like. I would probably pick him to win. I'm going to pick Mederos here by decision also, but I think it's going to be pretty close. I think Mederos is just going to be able to get up from the grappling. I don't think Chauncey's even in his. I know he's got a lot of sub wins, but most of the time he doesn't offensively grapple. He'll stand up for a while, so he's not a guy that's going to shoot a million takedowns either. So I think when he gets takedowns, I think Mederos is good enough that he'll be able to either stuff a couple of them or get up from there. So I don't think Chauncey's going to really sub him, but I don't think Mederos has any finishing equity here. So I'm just going to. I think that he'll be able to just outpoint Chauncey to a decision win.
Is this fight on land or in the water?
Unfortunately, it is on land.
Okay, because Choinski is the shark,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think he'll be able to drown Mederos. So
No, his tattoo. He's got a nice shark tattoo also.
let's keep an eye out for that. But let's also
Mm-hmm.
move up the card as we go to the men's welterweight division, as we have Chaos Williams at minus 190 with the comeback on Andreas Gustafsson at plus 160. Both these guys have had a couple opponent changes over the last couple weeks and ultimately got paired up for this week. But Red Ray, how do you have it?
We were on Gustafsson big last week. I think I know we were talking about we should have been credited with a W as he did KO Giles, but before the fight even started. So I don't know if the books are ever going to pay that out. But but I'm not as high on him. I think last week I was very high. I think the way Gustafsson fights, I think he would just walk through Giles's strikes. I don't think he's going to be able to walk through Williams's strikes as easily, as Chaos does have very good power for the division. He's a good striker. So I think Gustafsson is going to have a little bit of an issue getting to the clinch, and I don't think Williams is as weak in the clinch as Giles is. So I think it's going to be much more of a competitive fight. But I still think the way Gustafsson fights, if he can implement his game plan, get out against the cage, grapple. We did see Bonfim take down Williams last fight and sub him. So Williams can be taken down and he can be out grappled. I think once you get him in the clinch, his arms are going to fill up with blood. And his power is going to be a lot less significant in the second and third round. It's going to be much easier for Gustafsson to get to those clinch and maybe take him down. So I'm still going to take Gustafsson here. I think this is more going to be last fight. I thought he was going to win by KO. I think this fight's more of a sub or decision type finish for him. But if he gets a sub, it'll be late, I think, after Williams kind of gets tired from the clinch work. But if not, I think he just wins the moments in the clinch, especially in the second and third round.
Yeah, I mean we are pretty aligned again. I think I'm seeing a lot of people on Williams, but I like Gustafsson again. I really do. I think that Chaos Williams, um, I think I think he's slightly overrated. I mean, it's not like anyone's rating him as a future champion or anything, but I think when you really look back at all of his fights, he is um, a pretty inaccurate striker. I mean, he does throw heavy strikes. He does throw a lot of leg kicks too. But when you look at his head strike accuracy, it's not that good. And even the KO win over Carlston Harris, it wasn't even like the biggest shot that knocked out Harris. I think Harris just is very chinny and got KO'd. And the same thing with Miguel Baeza. We've seen Williams really be tested against Ronaldo Bedoya. Um, and I think a similar path here of what happened in the last fight. I was so unimpressed with what I saw from Williams in the last fight against Bonfim. Obviously Bonfim is a real prospect, and I'm not sure Gustafsson is on that level in terms of the wrestling grappling ability. But he did show it on his fight on Dana White's Contender Series. Um, I did think he was going to run through Trevin Giles, and I'm not ready to put Chaos Williams on a whole nother pedestal over Trevin Giles. And this is coming from someone who owes a lot to Chaos Williams as he cashed a big parlay for him, uh, about a little over a year ago. And I'll always love him for that. But with that being said, you should realize how much I do like Gustafsson here that I am picking against Chaos Williams. I do think that he's going to slow down Gustafsson pretty late into his fighting career. He's 34 years old, only has 13 fights, but this guy has been a savage in over his last 5 fights. And I do think that I don't think Williams is going to be able to knock him out. I think he's going to try to outpoint him, but I think Gustafsson has more ways to win. I think he can. I think he can strike with him. I think he can outclinch him against the cage, and I do think he can get him down. I think this is a good number at plus 160 for Gustafsson. I'm just going to take his money line. Um, if I have to pick him to win some way, I will say by decision at plus 550. But I'd like his money line at plus 160. Moving up the card, we go to the men's heavyweight division, as there is no women's heavyweight division. But we have Sergey Spivac at minus 140 with the comeback on Waldo. Cortes-Acosta at plus 120. I really like Spivac. I am heavy on the Spivac side here. The polar bear has shown very good wrestling grappling throughout his UFC career. He's 8-5 so far in the UFC, and the only losses have come to good competition. We saw him have a good first couple minutes against Gelton Almeida in the beginning of the year until he got reversed and then eventually finished by TKO in the first round. Um, had a submission win over Ty Bora over the summer of last year, which was tough for Red Ray and I. Got smoked by Surreal Gain. He could not get him down. If he can't get his opponent down, he's in big trouble. But I do think he's going to be able to get Acosta down. He has shown he can maul you with punches and elbows on the ground like a polar bear, or he can submit you. I don't think that Cortez's takedown defense is that good. I don't think he's fought anyone recently that's really tested that ability. Ryan Spann, who's not a true heavyweight, was trying to get him down a couple times. Didn't work out for him. We know Spann has very limited cardio and turned into a slop fest, and he got finished. We know Despain has zero takedown game, as Waldo Cortes-Acosta was the one initiating all the grappling and dominated that fight. Andrei Arlovsky's not looking to take you down. Lucas Brzezinski's not looking to take you down. Now, the only guy that really pushed this on him was Marcos Rogerio de Lima, who did find success landing 3 of 7 takedowns, controlling more of the fight, getting some grounded pound, and gave Cortes-Acosta his only professional loss. And then prior to that, he did get taken down by Chase Sherman as well. And if you want to compare the wrestling grappling ability of Chase Sherman versus Sergey Spivak, let me think of a good analogy here. I'd say it would be like a maybe me versus LeBron in a dunk contest might be a good comparison. So I do think the polar bear is going to have a lot of good success here. I think he's going to take him down and either find a TKO or submission finish. My official prediction is going to be Sergey by submission at plus 300. Lastly, I do want to add that if for whatever reason Spivac cannot get him down, he is going to be in real danger, and I do think that Cortes will knock him out. There is a line on double chance finish of Spivac by submission or Cortes-Acosta by KO at minus 140, and I do like that as well. But Red Ray, how do you have it?
We're mostly aligned. I'm on the Cortes side here. I just think that Spivac, most of his takedowns come off on the clinch body locks. We're in the big cage this week, and I think Cortes is going to have a significant athletic advantage and speed advantage. And we saw I don't think Cortes is up there with Cyril Gane as far as athleticism, but I don't think he's very far off. I think he's a pretty athletic guy. And I just think that Spivac's going to have problems getting to him on the cage. He doesn't have like double legs or just even single leg takedowns and the open mat that he could fall back on. So I just think Cortes is going to be able to circle enough, and he's probably going to he's obviously going to land the bigger strikes standing. So, and usually Cortes, like you mentioned the Despania fight, he comes with actually a good game plan. I know early in his career, I think there's a couple of times I had him by finish, and he was out there dancing in the middle of the cage in the middle of the second round after he had landed like 6 strikes, and really annoyed me. So, but it seems like he's gotten a little bit more mature as he's gone on, and the fight IQ seems to be pretty decent. The fact that he did go to the wrestling against Despon, and knowing that he didn't have any wrestling at all was actually a positive on my side. So I just think he's probably training his wrestling defense in camp here, and he's going to know to move away from Spivac and try to hold the middle of the cage. So I just think he's going to do the bigger strikes. I think if either guy, whatever guy gets their path, whatever gets their path going, I think they're going to dominate the fight. I like the under 2.5 here. I think if Spivac gets his wrestling going, he can win by sub or KO. And I think if he can't get the takedowns and Cortes keeps it standing, it's going to be a landslide KO there. So I just don't think this fight's going to go to decision. So, but I'm going to lean Cortes here, but I'm not overly confident on this side.
Okay. Let's move up the card. We keep it in the men's gender as we have another light heavyweight fight, as we have Azamat Murzakanov at minus 650 against Bredson Ribeiro at plus 425. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Well, there's a lot of like big odds in the fights this week. This is the one I actually agree with. I think Azamat's going to run through Ribeiro here. I think they're on different levels as far as striking wise. Azamat's stand up is pretty phenomenal. He doesn't really even move that well. He's more of a he kind of has a karate stance, bounces a lot when he's early in the fights. But even at he'll tire at some points, but his striking is he's so accurate with all of his strikes, and then they're not like touch strikes. All of them have he's throwing 100% power on most of them, and they're just so accurate. He just lands against Menefield. He was just at will, just landing the straight right down the pipe. And when he gets somebody hurt, he just goes for it. He just goes, and most of the time he does get the finish. So we saw him dominate. Just Dustin Jacoby, who's a much higher level striker than most of the guys in the division, and he pretty much dominated him on stand up for all 3 rounds. Brenson, we've seen he used to be a striker, then he got KO'd by Zhang, and now he seems to be trying to grapple a lot. He grappled heavily against the Russian 2 fights ago, or 3 fights ago. I know he fought Bruno Lopez also. And on DWS, he did KO him, but that was before the Zhang fight. Last fight out, he fought DR, the Blinken guy. And that was just an absolute embarrassment. That guy just quit in the middle of the cage, and then Brenton Kimura'd him, which is not a submission that you should get in the UFC. It's not it's got to be about as low.
And he got it
level
from
as possible.
bottom. He got it from bottom.
Yeah, it was. He swept it on top. It was so embarrassing. So, I haven't seen that in years and since like UFC 2. So, it was just a wild finish. But so I don't think he's not going to be able to get the takedowns on Azamat. I think Azamat's maybe been taken down once in all of the UFC fights, and he's just gonna the stand up. I mean, he might be competitive. He's got if he does actually want to stand up, he's got good speed and power. But I just don't think he's gonna be able to hit Azamat, and Azamat's gonna just he's gonna cave to his strikes. I think this is probably going to be a first or second round KO for Azamat here. Only concern would be Azamat's cardio. I mean, you look at his physique; he's 5'10", 205. He's not in pristine shape out there. Brenson's, I think, is going to have a 10-inch reach advantage and I think 5 inches of height. But most guys are bigger in a 205 than Azamat. But I saw against Menafield, he was slowing down a lot in the second round. So don't know if he really has 3 rounds of cardio. Maybe Brenson can out cardio him, but I mean, I just don't think it's going to get that long. So I think first or second round KO here.
Yeah, I like the breakdown. I agree with a lot of things you had to say. One thing that stood out to me that hurt my feelings a little bit was you said he dominated Jacoby, and I feel like that fight was pretty competitive. I don't want to,
I think he dropped him like 3 times in the fight. It was pretty one sided. I remember being on Jacoby there and just being very upset with the fight.
With that being said, I do think Jacoby is much better than Bredson Ribeiro. I do think he would knock out Bredson Ribeiro. Um, it's a little bit of an interesting style matchup here. We have the 5'10" Azamat Murzakanov, who's given up 10 inches of reach against Bredson Ribeiro. My point was going to be we saw what he did against Jacoby in a similar matchup. He did beat him fair and square, and I think this is a big step down in competition for Murzakanov. I think the only reason he's uh, taking this fight is because he's only had one fight in over 2 years. Maybe needs a little bit of a tune-up. I do think he's also going to knock out Ribeiro. I'm not impressed with Ribeiro. Um, I was on Dair, and that was a really tough loss to get submitted from top position by Kimura. Prior to that, he had a split decision one over Caio Machado, who's no longer in the UFC. Prior to that, he lost and he got knocked out. And then he had a KO win over Bruno Lopez, who we just saw get KO'd by Jacoby last week. Yeah, I'm very much aligned in the fact that I do think Murzakanov is a significantly better striker. I do think he's going to knock out Ribeiro. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, and I think he's going to fall pretty hard here. So, moving up the card, we have the men's flyweight division, as we have Bruno Silva at plus 450 with the comeback on Joshua Van at minus 700. I am very much on the Joshua Van side here. Bruno Silva just coming off a TKO loss to Manal Cap in the third round. Prior to that, he did get a TKO win over Cody Durden, beat Tyson Nam, who's no longer in the UFC, TKO'd. Victor Rodriguez is not in the UFC. Giuseppe Bai is not in the UFC. Those guys are all very low level. And then prior to that, he lost the decision to Tagir Olimbekov, who is good, and a decision to David Dvorak, who I also don't think is that bad, but I don't know if he's fighting anymore. But with that being said, I do think Joshua Van is the future. The kid is only 23 years old. He's getting better every fight. He could be undefeated in the UFC right now at 7-0. He did have a tough loss to Charles Johnson. It was a very competitive fight. I think if they were to fight again, I would pick Van 9 times out of 10. We just saw him in his last fight in March. We were on him against Tesura, who is a grappler. That's his only way is to grapple. And Van passed that test with flying colors, defended the takedowns very well. Van has only gotten one KO so far within the UFC. He has 5 decision wins. I think that's most likely what's going to happen in this fight. I do think he's going to outbox Bruno Silva. And there's a reason he's minus 700. I do think he's going to pick him apart. Bruno Silva, tough guy though, has only been TKO'd, I believe, one time. Once in the UFC and then a long time ago in his earlier days. But I think Van's going to outpoint him, outbeat him, piece him up. I do think he'll win 30-27. It can be a little bit of a slow starter sometimes in the first couple minutes as he's getting his reads, but I like Van by decision at -110. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I think Bruno Silva's pretty underrated. If you look at his record, he obviously you mentioned his 3 losses in the UFC. They're all to top level guys. The 2 of them were by decision. He lost to Cape last time. He would have lost by unanimous decision to Cape, but he did get kicked in the nether regions, and the ref just let it keep going. So that's the only reason he got finished there. So, but I think he's a good striker. He got 4 takedowns against Tagiru and Bekoff, which nobody gets that many takedowns against him. I think Tim Elliott's the only one who also got more than one. He took down David Dvorak 3 times in that loss too. Even I think Dvorak's takedown defense is around 70%. So he's got great takedowns. He subbed Tyson Nam, only time Nam had ever been submitted in the UFC. He's got good grappling. Obviously, he knocked out Cody Durden. We saw Josh Van obviously also beat Cody Durden, almost killed him, but didn't finish him. So I think that's an impressive finish also. So and obviously we've seen Josh Van. He's a good fighter. Pretty much has the same game plan. He just boxes for the most part. He did show some takedowns against Charez in that one fight. That was a real competitive fight. But we have seen him hurt a couple of times on the feet. Obviously got knocked out by Charles Johnson, Charles Johnson doesn't knock anybody out. I think that was one of the most wild finishes I've ever seen. He did get hurt by Charez also. So we've seen multiple times where he doesn't have the greatest chin in the world. I think he's kind of small. He is the taller guy here, but usually he in the fights he does look a lot smaller than his opponent. So I'm going to go Van here by decision, but the bet here is that I think Silva I think if Silva does get the win, I think he finishes him. So I do like the finish only on the Silva side there. It's a wild number for. I think he's the only one with finishing equity here.
Okay, let's jump into the main card as we start in the welterweight division as we have Vicente Luque at +230 with the comeback on Kevin Holland at -280. Red Ray, how do you have it?
This one's a hard one to break down just because you got probably 2 fighters you just don't know what you're going to get out of from fight to fight. I think a couple pre-Jeff Neal, I think Vicente Luque is a max bet here. But after the Jeff Neal fight, he's kind of been hit or miss. Obviously, he took a dive and got paid off against Joaquin Buckley to quit in the second round, and then did come back with the win against Garimbo last time, where he did drop him and then finish him with the Darce. And he claimed that he was back. I know he said after the Buckley fight that he was afraid to get hit. But then after the Garimbo fight, he said he's back. I mean, he's been sparring, so I mean, obviously he's getting hit in sparring. So if he's back, I think this is a super competitive fight. I think the stand-up, obviously Kevin Holland's going to be the taller, longer guy, but he has no takedown defense. We saw that against Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar got him down a couple of times, but he does have good power. And if he gets hit a couple of times and goes back to where he doesn't want to get hit again, Holland definitely hits hard enough to make you feel that way. But I think I'm going to lean Luque here. I think he's going to be able to be competitive enough in the stand-up, and I think he's going to be able to get takedowns here. And I think his ground game is good enough to submit Kevin Holland. We've seen Kevin Holland get submitted multiple times. It's obviously been most of the time it's at 185. He gets dominated with the grappling, but we've seen Luque. He has the ability to grapple. I think his grappling is he'd rather stand up, but every time he does use his grappling, it's pretty impressively dominant when he does use it. So. One of the things I did here earlier in the week, I know a lot of people have been on Holland, but if you watch previous fights, whenever Holland's like a toss up against Gunnar Nelson, everyone's like, "Oh, we're crazy! I'm just so crazy that you would pick Holland here, or just have any hope in him." But now I see a lot of people on Holland at whatever number he's at now, like -200, which is just how you can put -200 bet on Kevin Holland is kind of wild, but especially against Vicente Luque, But I will see. I mean, if Holland keeps it standing, he's probably going to win the striking battle. He's going to be the faster, longer guy. But I just think Luque has more passive victory here.
Yeah, so we're definitely a little unaligned here. I'm pretty high on Kevin Holland. Just for funsies, I want to ask you a trivia question. Who do you think has more fights in the UFC, Vicente Luque or Kevin Holland?
I
No
think it's. I'm
cheating.
gonna go. I'm gonna go with Kevin Holland here.
Okay, you are correct. Vicente Luque is 16 and 6 in the UFC. Holland 15 and 10. Um, but a lot of Holland's fights obviously have taken place at middleweight. Has been submitted 4 times. All 4 of the submission losses came at middleweight, unless you want to argue with me that the Hamza Chimaev fight was a catchweight fight, I believe, at 180 pounds. But you catch my drift here. I think Holland has very much superior striking. I think, again, a few years ago, I wouldn't really be able to argue that. Luque hasn't looked great when he fights someone who is actually striking with him. Yes, he caught Karimbo early and put him to sleep. He got beat up by Buckley. We were very confused by that performance. He looked so bad. He did smoke Dos Anjos, but again, Dos Anjos doesn't really pose much threat on the feet at this point in his career. Um, got put away by Jeff Neal. Hasn't been fighting that much. More recently he did fight. He hasn't fought in 6 months. Prior to that, he hadn't fought in 9 months. Meanwhile, Holland fights every 2 months. Uh, I know you just made a point that a lot of people were saying, "How could you pick Holland?" In a coin flip fight against Nelson. I was on Holland in that fight, and I do think Holland is this price for a reason. I do think that he's gonna beat up Luque. I think he's gonna knock him out, if I'm being honest. I mean, Luque looked good in his last fight just because he caught his opponent and put him to sleep pretty quickly. But prior to that, I really haven't been impressed. Holland at 170 is a much better fighter, much more dangerous fighter than Holland at middleweight. We saw him go to a competitive fight against GADM, who obviously we just saw won the world title. Um, and Luque, I mean, he was one of my favorite fighters in the UFC for a long time, and then yeah, I don't know. He's a bit of a shell of himself, unfortunately. I do think this is a good matchup for Holland. I don't think Luque is going to be able to take him down and control him or submit him. And I think as long as this fight's on the feet, I think Holland is going to have a significant striking advantage. So I'm pretty high on Holland here. But let's move up the card. We go to the men's bantamweight division as we have Mario Bautista at plus 150 with the comeback on Patchy Mix at minus 180. Starting on the Bautista side, we know he caught a lot of flack for his last performance against Jose Aldo. Um, Held him up against the cage the entire fight. I don't want to say beat him up because he really didn't. He really just kind of held him up against the cage and was landing pitter patter strikes here and there. Prior to that, though, he's been pretty impressive. I think he's very well rounded. He trains at MMA Lab, has done a lot of training with Sean O'Malley. Um, I know he also trains with Markel Mederos, who's we talked about earlier. Um, I've always thought Batista was pretty underrated. I still think you could argue he's underrated. I still think a lot of guys don't think he's this high level. He's definitely one of the most hated guys in the UFC after that performance against Jose Aldo. I know the public hates him. I think that's part of the reason why this line is going the way it is. With the comeback on the newcomer, Patchy Mix, haven't seen a lot of his fights as he's obviously the Bellator champion. I do know he trains at Extreme Couture. He is 20-1. Um, I was looking at his only loss came to a guy who's not very good based on his record. That was kind of shocking to see, but um, he knocked out Rayfion Stotts, who I do know is 21-2. He finished Sergio Pettis, who I'm very familiar with, and he has beaten Magomedov, who is obviously one of the Russian prospects over in Bellator, who is 20-4 overall and is a very good wrestler. Um, I see Mix only has 2 KO wins. I think that Bautista is going to have an advantage on the feet. Um, and I don't think Bautista's a slouch on the ground either. We've seen him in there with high-level jiu-jitsu guys like Damon Blackshear. We've seen him in there with wrestlers like Ricky Simone. He passed that test. Uh, I think Bautista is going to be a significantly better striker. I do think that he's going to be at a slight disadvantage on the ground, but I don't think it's significant. I think he's well versed enough on the ground to not get submitted. He was submitted one time before by Corey Sandhagen. We know how good Corey Sandhagen is, but um, I am going to lean Bautista. I think you're already getting a good price with the money line, but the official prediction will be Bautista by decision at plus 240. Red Ray, break it down for us.
Also going to be on the Bautista side. I think, as you said, I think he's going to be the better striker. Mixed last fight, he had a pretty interesting game plan against Magomedov. He wasn't initiating wasn't even trying to initiate clinches or anything. Was just kind of striking with him, and then he got rocked in the first round. He doesn't really have much on his strikes. He kind of just like throws a lot out there. He has a nice jab. He tries to check hook on counter strikes, but no real power. I know he has that. I think the KO win over Stotts. That was a knee. He's obviously, anybody lands a flush knee, you're going to knock somebody out. He is massive for the division. He's 5'11", 135. But Bautista is not that small. I think he's 5'9", so it's not a ginormous difference in height. And I think the reach is only 1 inch difference. So he's not going to have a huge advantage there on Bautista. I just think Bautista is probably going to have the cleaner striking. I mean, he trains with Sean O'Malley and, like you said, Mederos, high-level strikers, and he hangs with them. And we've seen him against, like you said, Damon Blackshear and Ricky Simone. He also seems to have he comes in with a good fight plan. Like against Blackshear, he was trying to keep it standing. Opposite against Aldo, he was trying to clinch and go up against the cage, so didn't want to stand at all with Aldo. So he has a game plan coming in. So I don't think he's going to want to take this fight to the ground. I think he's going to keep it standing. Patchy is going to try to create scrambles. I don't think he's going to be able to. If Blackshear took him down a couple of times, but wasn't able to do any type of control. Bautista's a black belt. He was able to get up immediately. And Simon wasn't able to get any control on his takedowns either. So I think both of those guys have much better takedowns than Mix. So Mix is going to have to try to create some kind of scramble to get down on the ground. He is able to, if he can, he could obviously choke out anybody, but that fight against Magomedov last time was kind of I thought he lost the fight, to be honest, but I thought that was pretty much how you beat Mix game plan that Bautista could easily just watch and figure it out. I mean, he was able to land on the feet, and it seemed Magomedov slowed down was the only issue, but that was a 5-rounder. This is obviously only 3. You mentioned the loss to one Archuleta. Archuleta's a grappler also. He was able to take Mix down and control him on the ground. That's how he got how he's got his one loss, was that he wasn't able to get any submissions. I know a couple of times he tried to jump guillotine against Magomedov. You know how my stance on guillotines. No one as a UFC fighter should get guillotined. Hopefully Bautista doesn't get guillotined here, and he pulls out a victory. Even though I'm worried if it's close rounds, obviously Mix is the A side here. So judges, who knows what you're going to get there, but hopefully. And he's also coming against. I thought he lost to Aldo, so who knows if karma's coming his way with a bad decision on the opposite side. But I'm just going to lean towards Bautista. I think it's going to be a very, very close fight, and I just think he's going to be able to edge out each round with the stand-up.
Okay, let's move up the card. As we go to the middleweight division, we have Kelvin Gastelum at plus 290 with the comeback on Joe Pyfer at minus 380. This fight was rebooked after being canceled just a few weeks ago. Obviously, the story, Joe Pyfer got sick down in Mexico, was very brash in his words on how he felt about Mexico. And we'll see how Kelvin Gastelum feels about that. But Red Ray, how do you have this one?
This should be an easy Pyfer victory. He's the much more talented fighter. Kevin Gastelum, Sorry. We've been talking about him multiple times. He has never. He shouldn't even be a 185er, but he just refuses to not eat for a little bit and cut down to 175 or like work out ever. I don't know what he does. So um, I know he had the fight against Sean Brady that he did go down to 174 and acted like he just couldn't even function. His body couldn't function. So um, he's just going to be a 185er forever. He's way too small for the division. I mean, he's going to be at a 5 inch region or 5 inch height advantage disadvantage here. Pyfer's probably going to come into this fight weighing 205, 215 of basically pure muscle. Gastelum's going to be in there at whatever 200 at like 30% body fat. So it's going to be a significant weight difference. Gastelum's, I mean, he's got good volume. We've seen him beat Chris Curtis and pretty much a stand-up war just by having more volume. He's got a good chin. He's never been knocked out before. We've seen him be in wars. His wrestling offense, he hasn't used it in a while. I know he had 4 takedowns against D-Rod, which actually wasn't that impressive. He got beaten up. He probably lost a stand-up against D-Rod and had to kind of just go to takedowns and hold him down. So that wasn't really a great look his last time out. Obviously, he got steamrolled by Brady the fight before. So I just don't think his I mean, he's getting up there, and I mean, he's 33, but he's feel like he's been in the UFC forever. Pyfer's obviously a big hitter on the feet. I don't know if he's going to be able to knock out Gastelum. No one has, but he trains with Sean Brady. They have an easy path of victory here. I mean, Gastelum is so heavy up top and has got such skinny legs. He literally just falls over if you blow on him. So Pyfer's going to be able to get this fight to the ground whenever he wants, and he's a good grappler. And it's obviously not on Sean Brady's level, but he's up there. I've seen him get submissions before. I think he easily just gets the fight to the ground. Either he can win rounds that way or just get a submission and finish Gastelum.
Yeah, we're very much aligned. We already broke down this fight a few weeks ago. I was re-looking at my notes and the lines. He was minus 300 back then. He's now minus 380. We had, I believe we had 2 units on him and Edgar Chairez. And obviously Pyfer got pulled out. I think Pyfer's better everywhere. I think he's going to be the more powerful, longer striker on the feet. But what I really think is going to happen is he's going to take Gastelum down with ease and submit him. You mentioned it, trains with Sean Brady. He's his main training partner. They have a podcast together. He's just a bigger, stronger version of Sean Brady. Maybe not as dominant of wrestling in his division, but I do think he's going to be able to take down and submit Gastelum. And if he wants to keep it on the feet and test the striking, I do think he could knock out Gastelum, even though we know Gastelum has never been knocked out. Gastelum, he should be a 170, but I mean, as you mentioned, for whatever reason, he just has this obsession with staying as a short, fat middleweight. I love Pyfer here. Absolutely love him. I think he wins it anywhere it goes, but my official pick is going to be Joe Pyfer by submission at plus 330. Now let's move on to the co-headliners for the night. Both bantamweight title fights, men and women's division, but we start, of course, in the women's bantamweight division as we have the champion, Juliana Pena at plus 500 with the comeback on Kayla Harrison at minus 800. Whew. We'll start on the Pena side here. 8-3 overall in the UFC, coming off a split decision robbery win over the real champion, Rocky Pennington. Prior to that, got absolutely dominated by Amanda Nunes in the rematch. Was taken down and controlled 6 times for 12 minutes of control time for Amanda Nunes. Did get the lucky submission win over Nunes in the fight prior to that. I still think that was a bit of a fluke, as I'm quite sure most people do. Prior to that, she submitted Sarah McCain. But I mean, it was so long ago. It's just the activity for Pena. She just never fights. I mean, this is going to be her second fight in almost 4 years. She's had a lot of injuries for whatever reason. I didn't even think she looked great against Rocky Pennington. It was a competitive fight that she won a decision that could have went either way. I had it for Rocky, and really, we just need to talk about the Kayla Harrison side. Obviously, a judo world champion. Um, has looked great. She didn't look super great in her last performance against Catlin Vieira. I think Catlin Vieira would beat Juliana Pena, though, to be honest. Um, she was able to take her down a controller, but couldn't put her away. And then obviously she looked fantastic in that first fight against Holly Holm at UFC 300. Uh, Took her down with ease. Absolutely dominated the fight, submitted her. And I think Holly Holm would also beat Juliana Pena even at this age. I think this is going to be an absolute squash match. I mean, there's a reason why she's minus 800. Um, Pena never been TKO'd. She only had one TKO loss via injury, which I suppose could be a fear. But I do think that Harrison is going to take her down and submit her in the first two rounds and become the new champion and fight Amanda Nunes at the end of the year in a super fight. Red Ray, quite sure you feel the same, but break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean the only hesitation I would have here is obviously Kayla Harrison is a large female. Um, Cutting it at 135 is rough for her. She's never been 5 rounds at 135. We've seen her. She has slowed down a lot in 5 round fights at 155. So cardio may not last that long, but I agree. I don't think it's going to get to that point. So I think the strength advantage here is going to be pretty significant. She wasn't able to get Vieira down last fight, but Vieira's takedown defense is pretty much top of the division. Um, Pena has a 25% takedown defense. You can just touch her, she'll fall over. She got submitted by Jermaine Durandamy at one point, who's a kickboxer, so she can definitely get submitted by Kayla Harrison. And I think it's going to be similar to the Holly Holm fight. I think once she gets Pena down, I think the grappling advantage for Harrison is going to be just wildly one-sided. Like you said, Pena's never been KO'd, and she's tough. We saw her get absolutely dominated by Nunes and never gave up every single round she was coming out, just blitzing her with her really low level striking.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to rate Juliana Pena's striking 1 out of 10 for me.
It is a solid 1.5. She just ducks that head and just throws. She has no idea where those strikes are going. I've never seen anything. She even hits pads like that, which is just wild. So
She has three TKO wins, and all three of those came over 10 years ago against very low level competition, which they were ground and pound finishes,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
KO wins.
I would assume she is a good grappler. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think the strength advantage is going to be just too much for her, even on the ground. And we saw her against. Nunes isn't really known for her grappling. Obviously, she can take it there. She's a goat, but she was just like lost on the ground against her and just getting beat up over and over. So I just think Kayla Harrison's she's gonna get those big meat hands around her neck and get some kind of choke, whether it's an arm triangle, rear naked choke, something like that. So I've got Kayla Harrison's submission whenever she wants to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to also point out, the way that Pena was able to win rounds against Pennington was by taking her down and beating her up. That's just not an option against Kayla Harrison. I just don't know where her path is. I think her path is, as you pointed out, Harrison would have to really death gas after the first two rounds. And then
it would have to be like the Nunes fight where Nunes just completely degassed in the second round, and it would have to be something similar to that.
Yeah. Anyway, sounds like we're both on Kayla Harrison by submission at plus 140. Now we move to the men's bantamweight title fight, and what I do think will be a much more competitive fight, as we have Merab Dvalishvili at minus 280 with a comeback on Sean Sugar O'Malley at plus 230. Sugar Sean, Red Ray, how do you have it?
I'm going to be on the Sugar side here. I rewatched the fight today, the last one. I really think, Sugar was about a minute away from the first round from winning that round. He was winning the stand up, and then Merab was able to get a couple of takedowns. I thought Sean clearly won 3 and 5. Merab won 2 and 4. So I mean, we're literally a minute away from Sugar winning the first fight. I know the commentary was very biased. They thought Merab was up 4-0, but and they thought he was absolutely dominating the fight. But he doesn't do any kind of damage ever. I mean, it's almost wild. The cardio is obviously elite, and but he just doesn't like hurt anybody. Doesn't has no. It's just wild for a guy who obviously to have that kind of cardio, you have to be like nonstop worker in the gym. For him to just have absolutely he has no control in his takedowns. There's a reason why he's shooting 40 takedowns is because people either he can't get the takedown or they just get back up. He doesn't submit anybody, so his jiu-jitsu is not very good. He literally only has cardio as his only advantage. His striking is obviously not good. He stands for a while, he gets beat up. It's just impressive that he does so much in the gym and just cannot. I mean, he has no talent. It's wild that he's gotten this far. One of the things I think is going to be an advantage for Sean here is I think we haven't seen Merab have a rematch against anybody. And I think you go into a fight with Merab and you just have you don't know what you don't know what's going to happen because his cardio is so good that you just think he might drown you. Obviously, cardio, I think, is one of the biggest fears of most fighters because it's such an unknown. And I think that's obviously not going to be an issue here because O'Malley's already going to know. It's like doing skydiving. It's obviously super scary the first time. If you do it again, it's probably not as scary because you've been there, done it before. So I think O'Malley's going to be a lot more calmer this time around, knowing that he was able to survive the first fight against them. And obviously, if you don't have to worry about death gassing, and you obviously never have to worry about Merab hurting you, makes the fight that much easier. I know O'Malley said that he was also had a torn labrum last fight, but then again, he always has some kind of injury. He also had an injury against Aljo, so I can't guarantee he doesn't have an injury this time either. And I know hasn't been on social media, is not dyeing his hair. I don't really love all that because I feel like it's going to cause a lot of him to think more than before. I like him to just do what he usually does and just kind of free flow in there. I also think Merab the first time around had a pretty good game plan. I think you could tell that Sean was ready to. He was kind of waiting for Merab to get him against the cage and do cage takedowns, which is what he usually does. And Merab was actually letting Sean come to him and was then doing open mat takedowns, which I don't think O'Malley was expecting because that's not usually how Merab fights. It actually caused O'Malley to look like he was like reaching a lot. Wasn't usually he's like really on his back foot, kind of dancing around, and he's a sniper counter striker. And I think he kind of was like confused by Merab's style, where he was just kind of bouncing on the outside, not really initiating any kind of pressure. And he was like really trying to reach for his strikes. Not until the 5th round did he really hurt. I mean, he seemed to really figure out a couple of like breakdowns in the 3rd round, and then he hit him with a couple of overhands, and then in the 5th round he was able to go to the body a lot and hurt Merab to the body. I think that's going to be more of the game plan here, and I think now he'll be more ready for both. If Merab wants to do the pressure style or the open mat style, I think he's going to be ready for either one of them. Him and Welch they usually have pretty good game plans and know what they're doing. So I just think I don't know if he's going to be able to knock out O'Malley or Merab here, but I think he's going to be able to outpoint him for at least 3 of the 5 rounds here. So I'm going to go O'Malley by decision.
Yeah, great breakdown. I agree with pretty much everything you had to say. I do think this fight is going to be very competitive. I mean, it's going to be similar game plans for both sides. The first time I was really confident that O'Malley was going to knock him out. We've seen Dvalishvili get hurt before, but it's still yet to be finished by TKO, although he has been hurt. O'Malley made some of the lifestyle changes. No more gooning, no more social media, no more streaming. He's more of a family man, a little bit now more. He said he had fun in his 20s, and now that he said he's 30, he feels like he needs to grow up a little bit. And there was like the rumors about his Tim Welch, his coach, saying, that the lights and the environment of the Sphere fight really threw Sean off. His body language and everything was off. O'Malley said he's not using all that stuff as an excuse, but he will use the torn labrum as an excuse that he just couldn't wrestle at all in his camp. Um, yeah, he himself said he thinks that the fight was much closer than everyone else thinks it was. Like you pointed out, he was winning the first round. It like got taken down with a minute left. Um, and rounds 2 and 4 were just such dominant rounds for Merab that it takes away how close the other rounds were. Um, I do think this will be close. I do think O'Malley is going to outpoint him. I also think that the UFC wants him to win. I don't think it's a worst case scenario for them anymore if Merab does win. I think that they may have felt like that the first time around, but I do think that Merab has grown a little bit with his fans. But I still think that Sugar Sean is one of their three biggest, um, horses that they have in the UFC. I think that they want him to win, which shouldn't be a reason why I'm picking someone to win. But if it's a close decision, the guy who's going to do more damage, you guys have often heard me talk about damage. Red Ray just mentioned it. Damage is the number one criteria when scoring fights, and Merab doesn't do a lot of damage. He certainly doesn't do a lot of damage on the feet. He can take you down and pitter patter you with little pillow shots on the ground. He's very effective at that. He's very good at what he does. But O'Malley could land even big strikes from the bottom. He could throw big elbows. He could throw up kicks. And when it's on the feet, I definitely think he's going to be doing more damage. He's live for a knockout, but I'm not as confident in the knockout this time around. I will predict a decision win for O'Malley, and I think you're getting a good line at it at plus 600. The KO line is only plus 375, plus 350 on some, but my prediction is going to be Sugar Sean O'Malley by decision. So, that being said, let's get into the picks. We had a rough week last week, but we're still up 5.42 units. Been doing this for almost 3 months now, I think. We had a lot of weird things went on last week. The main event got canceled. The Gustafsson fight, who we were pretty invested on, got canceled. And we had a Billy Goff, who was a big favorite, who had a bit of a foolish approach to the fight. Not to make too many excuses, but I'm feeling confident, feeling really confident in our picks this week. I'm excited. It's also my birthday weekend, so hopefully get some good luck from that. But let's start with the team bets as always. These are the bets that we feel most confident in, that we spent the most time on discussing and coming together with. So we're going to start with the 1 unit play. We just talked about Kayla Harrison. We think this is going to be an absolute squash match. We've seen Juliana Pena be submitted multiple times. We think that Harrison is going to pick her up and throw her across the cage on her head and submit her in the first 2 rounds pretty easily here. We don't really know what Pena's game plan is going to be to win the fight, other than to out cardio and then hopefully land a couple of her 1.5 out of 10 striking ability shots to steal a few rounds at the end. I just don't see a path for her. Quite confident that Harrison is going to submit her pretty quickly, set up the super fight with Amanda Nunes at the end of the year. So we're going to have 1 unit on Kayla Harrison by submission at plus 140. Our 2 unit play is going to be on Azamat Murzakanov by knockout in under 2.5 rounds at minus 190. Red Ray, you want to talk about this one a little bit again?
Yeah, I just think Azamat's going to blow through Ribeiro here. The line is obviously pretty heavy. I don't think the decision is really in play for Azamat. I think Ribeiro is going to cave before there, so you're getting under 2.5 here. knocking his money line all the way down to minus 190. So I like that play though.
Yeah, so we're getting plus 140 on Harrison. This one is minus 190, so we're going to lay 2 units to get one back. But we are feeling confident in Murzakanov. This is kind of a tough way to get value on him, but this is a bit of a sneaky way we're going to get a few more points. And then lastly, the 3-unit play. We talked about the Joe Pyfer. Think he's better everywhere, and we both picked him by submission. That was even before we both felt that way and knew we both felt that way. We saw what Sean Brady, who is Joe Pyfer's main training partner, did to Gastelum. He absolutely dominated him in the wrestling. Joe Pyfer was just saying people were trying to compare him to Bo Nickel, and he said Bo Nickel got fraud checked, got finished. You know, he'd lost to Jack Hermanson when he had double staph infection, some other things going on. He pulled out of the last fight because he knew that wasn't going to be a good performance for him, and it was a smart move. And I think he's going to dominate this fight. He's almost minus 400 for a reason. We're just taking his money line, and we're going to tie that with Sugar Sean O'Malley plus 9.5 points. So you can find this on Fight Lines, alted points, and the normal line is plus 5.5. We're going to get a few more points here at plus 9.5 and parlay these together to get it to minus 115. But again, we expect this Sean O'Malley fight to be just as, if not more competitive than the first fight was. It was a 5-point loss for O'Malley the first time around, so he would have covered 5.5, would have easily covered 9.5. We both picked him to win this fight. Let alone cover 9.5 points, which would mean at worst that he needs to win one round decisively. If he were to win the decision 49-46 on all 3 judges' scorecards, he would still win plus 9.5. Obviously, adding the 9 points, pushing, and then winning with the extra half a point. So really, we just need Sean O'Malley to win one round. Merab never finishes anybody. He is a decision machine. We're quite confident that O'Malley can win one round. And again, that's Joe Pyfer money line with Sean O'Malley plus 9.5 coming to minus 115. So let's get into the individual picks. Red Ray was 1-1-1 last week and was up, I think, half a unit. So, Red Ray, let's hear from the man himself. What do you have for us this week?
We're going to have 4 plays again this week. First one's going to be an alt line here. It's going to be a double chance on the Saragih and Jusung Yu fight. It's either Saragih by KO or Yu by sub. I think that's Saragih's only path to victory is by KO. And I think you could obviously ground and pound KO, but just by watching his fights, I think he loves to just go right to the back. I think he's going to be easily the better grappler there. So those are the two paths that I think the fight's going to go down. I'm going to put 1 unit on that. It's plus 160. I think that's a lot of value there. Next play is going to be 1 unit on Vicente Luque 1+ takedown. Like I said, I think that's how he wins this fight. I think he grapples. Holland has no takedown defense. I think Luque can get him down. 1 takedown is plus 150 on DraftKings. I wouldn't even, if you can ladder that. I don't know what the numbers are, but 2-3 takedowns. I think that's just how he wins the fight. Third play is going to be, I got a half unit on the Cong Wing and Ariana Lipski fight to end by KO. Obviously, my pick is Cong Wing by KO, but I can see Lipski also getting a KO. I know you also mentioned Lipski going by sub. I think that's also a likely path, or that could be a path, but I think both of these girls have shown that they can be knocked out, and they both hit very hard. So that's my path here. And then finally, I did pick Josh Van by decision, but I really love the number on Bruno Silva inside the distance decision, no action. I think he's the only one with finishing equity there, and the line is plus 350, which I think is crazy. So I'm going to put a half unit on that. If Van wins by decision, like I think he will, then we'll just get that half unit back.
Okay, I'm doing a little history on my picks because it's been rough. I've been holding Red Ray back. It's unacceptable. I'm not proud of it. Our team bets have been doing good. Again, those are what we feel most confident in or most aligned in. But individually, since we started doing individual picks, the first week I went 4-0 on my individual picks, and we went 3-0 as a team. And since then, I have been getting my butt kicked on my individual picks. Um, I think I am 1-9 over my last individual plays. You got to wear it on the chin. Okay, I'm not going to hide from it. I'm just going to address it up front. I'm going to be honest. It's unacceptable. This week, my birthday weekend, luck is going to be on my side. Fortune will be on my side. I am feeling very confident in my picks. I really like Sergey Spivac money line at -130. I do think he is going to have obviously he's going to have a significant advantage in the wrestling grappling department. It's a matter of can he execute that game plan, and I think he can. I don't think Cortes-Acosta has been challenged enough in the defensive wrestling grappling. The last time we saw this tested, he failed the test. It was his only professional loss to a guy who I don't think is nearly as good as a grappler wrestler as Sergey Spivac. The polar bear, once he gets you down, he can either submit you or TKO you. If he does get Cortes down, I don't think Cortes is going to be able to get up. A worst case scenario is that Spivac struggles to get the takedowns and gets beat up on the feet. But I do think that Spivac's wrestling grappling is going to be good enough to get Cortes-Acosta down and maul him like the polar bear that he is. I am going to do 1.3 units on Sergey Spivac's money line of -130 to get back 1 unit. And then my other play is going to be Kevin Holland money line parlayed with Mario Bautista plus 7.5. I know Red Ray is going to be a little disappointed hearing this, but I am much higher on Kevin Holland than he is. I do think that Kevin Holland at 170 is a much better fighter than Kevin Holland at 185. I don't like what I've seen from Vicente Luque lately. He did have, I don't want to call it a lucky win, but he did have he caught Garimbo and put him to sleep 1 minute into the fight. Really wasn't tested in any way, shape, or form. Prior to that, took a dive against Buckley and got beat up. He looks much slower. He looks like he doesn't want to get hit. The fast twitch Luque that we used to see seems like it's completely gone. I was on Holland in his last fight. He had a good performance against Gunnar Nelson. Was taken down, did out damage Gunnar Nelson. Was a significantly better striker. I think that's going to be a similar case here. I think he's going to have much better significant advantage on the feet. He's going to out damage Vicente Luque. I don't think Luque's wrestling grappling is going to be dominant enough to take down and beat up and or submit Kevin Holland. I think this line is a near 3-1 favorite for Holland for a reason. I think that is the correct line, and I think he's going to have a showcase performance and finish. But we're just going to do a Kevin Holland money line alongside Mario Bautista at plus 7.5. And altogether, this is going to come to plus 109. But again, to touch on the Mario Bautista side, I think he has a much better stand-up than Patchy Mix. I do think that his defensive grappling is good enough that he won't get finished. I do think this fight will go to decision. And I think Bautista is going to be the one doing more damage, showing the judges more impactful strikes. And the defensive grappling is good enough that he won't get submitted, won't get controlled the entire fight, I think he's got good enough scrambles that while he may get taken down a couple times, I don't think he'll get smothered and held down the entire time. He'll be able to fight off the takedowns enough, outpoint him on the feet, and at least win one round. So again, with the plus 7.5, we just need him to win one round. He doesn't have to win one round. I'm sorry. He needs to win one round from one judge to cover this fight. So he could lose 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28, and he would still cover. I'm quite confident that at least one judge will see that the damage is enough for Mario Bautista. Red Ray and I both picked him outright, but again, I'm going to buy the points and get this 1.7 unit play to plus 109. So those are the official picks. We got 3 official picks in the team bets. Red and blue picks. Red Ray's got 4 plays. Blue Bart's got 2 plays. I am very excited for this card. I can't wait. Really very much looking forward to it. And then next week, we will be back for UFC Fight Night as we have one of Red Ray's all-time favorite fighters, Kamaru Usman, against Joaquin Buckley, who we just talked about. So looking forward to recapping UFC 316 and then breaking down and giving our picks for UFC Fight Night, Usman versus Buckley, live from Atlanta, Georgia. So until then, please subscribe to x.com/R&B Fight Picks. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a like and a follow. And of course, look for us live on x.com as we will be recapping all of the fights and our picks live as they play out. So good luck, and we'll see you next week.